for increased brand reach. I have just started the recording of the session, so after this, I'll also send out a link to be able to watch the video back. Do feel free to ask questions as we go along. I will have time at the end to answer any questions you might have. But if you feel like you're not sure how some of these things apply to you as an organization, we also offer a free consultation with people. So feel free to book that in with me when we share the recording. We've also got some resources on the topic. So please go to our website and you'll be able to find some blogs and articles, but also some templates and guides that relate to this topic as well. So for those that don't know who we are a marketing agency to support purpose-led organizations. So the predominant type of clients that we work with are educational organizations, B Corps and charities, but we do work with a number of values-led businesses as well. Basically, if you're doing good in the world, we'd love to be able to support you in growing your reach. So in terms of the support that we provide, our clients last year saw an average increase of 40% on their conversion rates. And we do that from the data that we get from the 5,000 plus campaigns we run each year. In terms of what we'll be discussing today, it's going to be based on our experience of running those campaigns and how we feel that you would be able to take the things that you've currently got that are working well, the things that you're maybe kind of looking to improve, and by kind of understanding that, improve your reach and the number of people that you're engaging with that then are suitable for your organization. There's no point in reaching people if they're not your target audience, or they're not people that you're actually going to be able to convert into whatever it might be that you're looking to convert them for. So we know that there are a number of different strategies out there that that people have. We've picked 5 that we feel you probably haven't been able to do, or you probably haven't had a chance to look at, because we know that it's been a very, very busy 6 to 12 months for a lot of people. So we're talking about these in particular, but there are a number of things that you can do. These are just the ones that we're seeing coming out in 2025 and in the last 12 months. In terms of why it matters, we know that it's very important to be considering the reach that your brand has, because there's significant increases in competition, not just in terms of the number of brands that are out there, but also the fact that people are spending more and more on marketing, because it's such a competitive environment. If your competitors are spending more, you need to spend more to be able to reach those people, and it kind of just escalates from there. We also know that in terms of the digital spaces, there are limited spaces for the opportunities that you have that are relevant to you. So there might be thousands and thousands of opportunities out there to advertise digitally, but actually, in terms of the ones that are unique for your offering and the ones that are highly competitive, there are actually very few out there. So we know that competing for those spaces is really important. We know that people expect to kind of know and be aware of brands before they take some kind of action. So the more people that your brand can reach, the more people you're likely to convert, especially when you're then running lead generation campaigns. We know that being authentic and building trust with your brand is really, really important in 2025. You can't build that trust, you can't build that authenticity if you're not reaching people, if you're not telling people that story. We also know that in terms of visibility, consistency, in terms of reaching your target audience and increasing that brand reach, really does help with the algorithms. So any of those organic things that you're doing, it's going to be important for consistency, that you're increasing that brand reach and driving people back to your content. And then we know that if you want to grow, you need to be increasing your brand reach. Um, Without doing that, it's going to be very difficult to grow because it literally can be connected to the growth of lead generation and sales of your service or your product or your school or your charity revenues. So it's very important that you consider what is your brand reach and how can you improve it and increase it and make it more efficient. So we started off with one that is very difficult to do for a lot of people. We've picked a publisher here. We know that a lot of our clients are very cautious around influencer collaborations, especially if you're a school, especially if you're in the education sector or in the charity sector. You do have to be very careful who you connect with, and there's a lot of bad press at the moment around influencers. However, if you get this right, then influencers can be exceptionally useful for increasing your brand reach because they have your target audience connected to them already. And typically, they have spent a lot of time building an authentic reputation. So, not just being paid to review content or services or products, but actually giving a very open and honest review. So, they're the people that you should be looking to kind of partner with. They're the people that if you go onto their Instagram or TikTok or whatever channel they might be using, they give a balanced view. So, are they saying um, an equal number of constructive criticisms to the number of things that they're praising? That's typically a good way of identifying that. Um, and as with any masterclass that I like to talk through, it's much easier to see how other people have done this. So we've included some case studies for each of the different areas. But in terms of HarperCollins, they were looking to promote out and increase the brand reach for their GCSE revision guides. So they selected 14 TikTok influencers. They combined and looked for kind of the diverse range of things that those influencers were famous for. So some of them were about focusing on educational methods, some of them were focused on supporting students, but all of them are connected to education and providing content for a network of people who would be doing their GCSEs in the near future or coming up in the coming 12 months. So they got these influencers to create videos showcasing how the revision guides aided in their study routines. And that was linked to their own experience of how you should be revising, how you should be preparing for your GCSEs. And that brought in that trust and authentic element that I mentioned earlier on. So across those 14 people, they managed to receive 2 million video plays, which significantly increased their brand exposure. And I think it's worth noting that you don't have to do something on this scale. You could just be picking two influencers or three influencers that are within your sector and that have a good level of brand reach for your products or your services or your educational offering. Does anybody have any questions at all? There's a window in the bottom right-hand corner to ask some questions. Have you got any questions about this case study? Perfect. Typically, the thing that I see with this as being a challenge, typically it's finding those influencers first of all. The thing that is really useful is if you can talk to your target audience and find out who they engage with and on what platform, because that will give you a very good starting point. So in this case, maybe talking to people who are studying for their GCSEs, who are they engaging with on TikTok and Instagram, Facebook? What channels are they using? Do they trust it? Do they trust those people? But also do your research in terms of what kind of content's been put out by those people before. Are they just sales guides, just sales pitches, or do they give that balanced approach? So it's really important at the moment to have a diverse media schedule. It's something that we believe very strongly in, and it's definitely something that we've seen a significant shift back towards. People had moved very heavily towards digital. They'd kind of almost refined it down to their favorite platforms. But actually, um, it's really important now that you've got multiple channels and that different people from your target audience can engage with you in different ways. Some of that is going to be stuff that you already own. It might be improving the SEO optimization of your website. Some of it might be um, organic posting, gathering new followers for your company profile, say on LinkedIn. And then sometimes you're going to be using paid for media for that. Um, in terms of where this has worked particularly well, and I'm picking case studies here that are from the last few years. We really like the example of the Body Shop. They were very good. And this is from a couple of years ago now. They were very good at using multi-channel marketing to have multiple different touch points of people repeating the same message. And it's that repeating of the same message that's really important because you're not increasing your brand reach if each time people have different touch points with you, they're hearing a different message. So they use Instagram, Facebook, and at the time it was called Twitter, to engage with audiences and telling stories. We do a separate masterclass on that, and it also repeated the things that were important to them. So it repeated their values. So some of that was about the products that they really believe in that they're selling. Some of it was about the social causes that they're involved in. So part of it you could see as educational, and they were very good at, across these different multiple channels in tying the two together. So their belief in those social causes and the products that they're launching, and they're the stories that they were talking about across those different channels. So they brought in personalized email recommendations. So they were recommending certain products to people depending on how they'd engaged with different marketing channels, which for me is a nice additional touch. So if people were engaging with particular products for particular types of people or particular conditions, for example, then they are the emails that would be sent out. It's possible to do that through something like MailChimp or ActiveCampaign. So if that's something you want to talk about, be very happy to do that. But it does add an additional benefit to this multi-channel approach because you can target different audiences using different channels. You can use your messaging for multiple different services and products and offerings that you have, see what people engage with, track it in a platform, and then market to those people directly through email marketing. Um, Additionally, they added in-store experiences. So they would run product demonstrations and workshops for people. This isn't something that just needs to be considered for those products. Those that are schools, trusts, independent schools, those that are charities, they can run workshops for people. Schools can run sessions where potential pupils can come in and can engage with you. They can take part in a workshop, a demonstration to see what it's going to be like. I've seen that work particularly well for, say, sixth forms. And this multi-channel approach makes sure that you're converting and engaging with people who are the decision makers. And sixth form is a good example of that because parents and the pupils, both need to be influenced. They both need to be reached with your brand, but they're going to be using different channels. So similar messaging across each of those different channels, following it up with emails, and then an in-person experience is a really good combination of touch points. Um, In terms of the things that you could do on top of that, so for the Body Shop, they also had content marketing and they also had collaborations and partnerships with influencers. So you don't need to necessarily pick one of these strategies and follow it. I feel like the things on the previous slide will really be more than enough to start with, but these are a nice additional extra to be able to boost what you're doing. and boost the number of different ways that people can engage with your brand. And therefore, you're boosting your own personal brand reach as a business or organization. Does anybody have any questions at all about that as a case study and that as a potential way of increasing your brand reach? Perfect. So the third strategy would be to use user-generated content and the community that you have. Um, it's very difficult to build a community, but they're of incredible value. I think previously it was quite easy to add a lot of people to a newsletter or to a group on LinkedIn, to a group on Facebook, and feel like you were building a community. But actually, a true community is very, very engaged with your content. And those people that are engaged with you as a brand, they will be sharing their own experiences of your product or your service or your charity or your school. You can be using that user generated content to increase your brand reach. They're typically going to be connected to very different people to you as an individual, but also you as a school or a business or a charity. So if you can start to engage with those people who are within your kind of bubble of your community, but also generating content, then you've got an excellent um, pool of advocates for your brand. Um, Cancer research did this very well. They were very good at getting people to create their own content. So they encouraged people through the different channels that they had to post selfies without makeup, showcasing natural beauty and solidarity with cancer patients. And then people were prompted through that to donate to them as a charity. A very simple, quick way that people could share their details and share their donation. That really helps having a quick call to action and making it very clear. But the fact that they also encourage people to nominate friends to take part in the challenge really got those users involved in increasing their brand reach, because it wasn't them who were contacting those people, but it was the people who were kind of tier two or tier three in terms of connections away from then as a charity. And the campaign worked exceptionally well. It might be difficult for you to think of a way to do this, but for example, if it was school, you could be picking topics that people could be sharing content about. Your favorite historic fact, for example, if you're looking to kind of set yourself up as being an educational organization with a particularly strong history department. And then you could be encouraging people to share with their friends or nominate friends to share their favorite history fact, for example. It is difficult to do for a lot of people, but those that put the time in, put the effort in to coming up with a good idea, what they can find is that it can start to snowball. So it takes a bit of time to pick up for those initial people in your community, but as soon as those people are starting to create their own content about your topic, it will then reach another level of people who will then reach another level of people. And as you can see with cancer research, theirs actually went viral from that. Um, but you have the potential to kind of go viral, probably more within the community and your target audience, which will make it more relevant for you as a charity or a school or an organizational business. Does anybody have any questions at all about user generated content or the case study? Perfect. So hopefully everybody's used digital advertising at some point, and hopefully to a certain degree that is optimized for your target audience. I think most people would know these points. They would know about A/B testing and they would know about retargeting. The difficulty is not everybody has the time to use them, and that's that's difficult. And my recommendation would be to start off with a small campaign that you're looking to um, understand how people engage with your brand, and test it. Look at what you did previously and the impressions and the views and the click-throughs and the conversions. And then this year or this month, depending on how regularly you're marketing out, run a campaign where you are doing A/B testing, you are doing retargeting, and see how those adjustments impact your click-through rates and your conversions. If you're very cautious in terms of, okay, everything was working well last year or last quarter, um, what you can do is in that A/B testing, you can keep something which is fairly close to what you're doing before, and then you can use that B testing for something which is completely different. You may surprise yourself and you may actually exceed what you're doing before. So, in terms of optimizing those digital campaigns, um, we have picked an academy that has done quite well in America in kind of focusing on local families. So, they were looking to engage with families and children of appropriate age range for them, and they wanted to utilize the data and the online behaviors of those people to kind of optimize the campaigns that they had. So they used a combination of email marketing, display advertising, social media campaigns to target those different people. Um, First of all, they had to start off with creating compelling creative that highlighted the school's unique offerings. So some of those things were around kind of the sizes of the class and the collaborative learning environment. And they did that by researching what their current audience was engaging in. So when they put out five different topics, one was about, say, class sizes, one was about the curriculum, one was about the learning environment, one was about the resources, and so on and so forth. They measured those digital campaigns to see, okay, the top things that people are engaging with are the class size element and the collaborative learning environment. That information allowed them to optimize their digital campaigns. So they're just focusing on the things that are actually increasing their brand reach. And therefore, the money that they were spending on that could be increased and the money could be decreased in the other elements that they were considering. They had to change their campaign to adapt to virtual tours. Um, and that actually really helped them because their ability to convert people from increasing that brand reach to actually engaging with them was much quicker because people could sign up for a virtual tour and they didn't physically have to be coming to the area to engage with them. Um, this kind of method of trialing the things that are important to you, the things that the pillars that your marketing and your brand is built on, to your target audience, and then picking the one or two things that are actually kind of increasing your brand reach is a really, really good model to work with because it just makes sure that you're getting a good return on investment. And it also makes sure that you're not diluting your message down constantly by you're saying different things constantly and you're trying different messaging. You can just focus on one or two things and make sure that you're repeating that to people. Does anybody have any questions at all about optimizing those digital campaigns and testing things to see what works well? Perfect. So in terms of focusing on local areas, this applies to a number of different people. It applies to businesses trying to sell products around the UK. It applies to businesses trying to sell products around the world, but it also applies to school trusts, for example. If you've ever tried to recruit or market for a school trust, you will know that those different sites have different challenges and different issues. Sometimes your trust brand can help, sometimes it can influence things in a way that you were unexpected. Um, but you do need to be very aware that the primary school 10 miles away from your head office and the secondary school 5 miles away from your head office could be in completely different environments, completely different demographics, and they could be different target audiences in terms of what's important to those people. Um, in terms of kind of local identities, local challenges, local economic problems that people might have, or and that can go a number of different ways. It might be very expensive to live somewhere. It might be very cheap to live somewhere. They're all going to have influence on the messaging that you need to be getting out there for your brand reach. Um, so um, the way that people have done this is numerous. It started off with a trust. Coca-Cola is a good example of how you could do this globally. They were picking local names and they were putting those names on um, Coca-Cola bottles so that people were feeling like Coca-Cola really understood their local audience, and it was fun and engaging because people were looking out for their own name. If they'd just picked from one country and they'd spread those names everywhere, people would have felt like it wasn't bespoke for that target audience, and their engagement would have been very poor. Um, in terms of the things that they did well and the reasons that I've included um, them as a case study here is they encouraged their target audience to engage with those localized names, those personalized bottles, so that there was actually user generated content being put out there. They also research very heavily what were the localized names, and it's that research element that I think is really important to this as a case study. Does anybody have any questions at all about how they might be able to apply this to their own organization? Perfect. So that's the end of the session. I will stay online a little bit longer and just answer any questions that people have, but I'll just stop the recording